Hi, Hannah. I'm so excited to have you and welcome to the Screw Being Unhappy podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here. Excited to get
So,
this rolling.
Hannah, I'm excited to have you because you, as me and our listeners, have feet in different countries. You originally come from Malta, you are now in Nepal, and your partner is also from different culture and country. So, and right now you are a business strategist focusing on organic marketing strategies. But before we jump into the business, would you share a bit more about your story and what caused that you are also all over the place, like most of us who are listening?
Thank you. Yes, so for me, I recognized that I had a deep desire for traveling and volunteering and meeting new people and in some way helping, serving, supporting people. I just had no idea what this was like, right? But it became very clear to me in 2011 where I had just had ended a very long-term relationship. I had just finished studying my marketing. I was already working. I was already in my career, very well into my career. I started at a very young age. We'll get into that. But it was at that time, in a moment of darkness, let's say, that I really started to listen and to hear that voice, that little girl's voice of saying, travel, volunteer, do these things, like do all the things that you've been wanting to do. And so that's how I started sort of creating this life that allows me to work and travel and meet people and just be exposed to so many beautiful cultures and experiences, I guess.
And how one ends from Malta in Nepal right now, if you can share, because I am super curious, of course.
But look, it's a little bit of a long story, and it starts with getting kidnapped in Tanzania.
Oh no.
Yes, temporarily held hostage, let's say. And that trip for me there, where I had just started volunteering, actually, I had just started living out the dreams of my little girl, right? And this unfortunate event happened, unfortunate or maybe fortunate, because to cut a long story short, when I went back home, I was freaked out. I was in some kind of PTSD. I had to travel on work very frequently, and so traveling became a big burden. It was a very scary thing for me to do, to travel again alone, something I had been used to already for a very long time. And so this was a big sort of opening for me. I was in a position to choose to stay in fear or to face it head on. I mean, without any therapy or support, I kind of took it on myself to just face the fear head on. And I was like, okay, time to pack the bags and head out again. And I got in touch with a friend of mine who's now a very dear friend, who's still very, very, very close. And he was planning a trekking trip to Everest Base Camp. He said, oh, I'm going to Nepal. I'm going to be hiking, climbing Mount Everest. Maybe Nepal is a country that you should consider. Now, I had zero knowledge about the country. I had zero knowledge about the geographical area as such. So I even had to look up where is Nepal. But on like in an instant, I just knew very intuitively, just doing a little bit of research, not much at all, that this was the right move to make. And I just followed that gut instinct. I followed my intuition, and one thing led to another. I came in 2013 for the first time for like 2.5 months, and really fell in love, kept on supporting an organization that I was volunteering with over here, from back home. And year after year, I would visit. Finally, 2014, I was like, okay, enough is enough. I need a reset on life. I don't know what I'm doing. I was deeply depressed in a way. I felt like my soul needed more than what I was doing. I was in business development and marketing for a long time in the pharmaceutical mostly industry. And I just needed a change. I needed to get out. So that's how I came back to Nepal and then met my now husband. And so I
Okay.
stayed.
I mean, when I ask you, can you share how this story happened? I did not expect that you will say that you were kidnapped in Tanzania, and that must have been tough. And I used to live in Tanzania, so maybe this would be for another entire episode, I can imagine. Um, and I think we all have this kind of long, complicated stories. When people ask me how did I end up in Zambia, it's, well, I was not kidnapped, luckily, but also it's like I have been 6 months in Mongolia and I came back and like all this. So I think that's something we all have in common when we are living in a different country that we come from, that somehow our life takes us somewhere, and that's beautiful. And you eventually met your husband, and I know you have a child as well, so that's super interesting. Good to know somebody in Nepal we can, do some exchange
Definitely.
visit. But back to
Definitely.
the marketing, because you mentioned you have been in business for a long time. You started at very young age, and for lots of business owner or people who have a full-time job but want to create side business, marketing is that pain point which everybody fears. Now, when it comes to creating side business, and we add in having a family, having things we love doing, having all the sorts of things life brings, like, is
Yeah.
there a way how we should do marketing that it actually works and we actually enjoy doing it?
Yeah. So it really depends entirely on the type of business, number one, and your niche, number two, and who are you targeting. But it also depends on you as a business owner, right? And so for me, intentionality is very key. Being very intentional with your actions. And so if you're a service-based professional, a coach, a healer, a therapist, you're providing a service to people, um, focus on marketing to people that you actually want to work with. For me, that adds so much joy. It's not so much about just selling. It's about, I really want to serve that person. I love my clients, like I love who they are, right? Like we're connecting on a lot of similar things that went on in our life and values and life choices. And so like we get on, we vibe together. And so I like to see my clients in the same way. I want to show up to work, and showing up to work is not only doing the service, but also I see marketing as the service as well. So being very intentional with that, and streamlining the tasks. There's a lot of things out there. A lot of people say, do this, do that, have a funnel, have a website. Focus on what really matters. Focus on what's really actually going to be effective, right? So this takes away all of the shiny objects. This takes away the risk of going down rabbit holes that you just can't get out of, or you don't want to go down, right? And so being very intentional with, does this generate X? Does this lead to audience growth? Does this lead to acquiring a lead? Does this lead to planting seeds for whatever objectives you have, right? Instead of focusing on everything at the same time.
Mm. And I love that you mentioned let's focus in our marketing on the people we want to work with. And it's funny how these interviews always happen, because it always brings something that is actual in my life. I don't know, coincidence. I just wrote, I am working on my signature program right now, and as I am preparing it, one of my big notes is like, think of my amazing clients I want to work with. And it really makes a difference, because I think initially when we start with the business, we just want to sell, kind of to see, and we are like, whoever wants to buy, just come, right? But as we continue the journey, we meet people we don't want to work with. And we actually, when we focus on the amazing clients which make us happy when we work with, when it comes to service based, like when I jump off of a call with an amazing client, it's not like I'm tired, I'm more energized, I'm more excited. And I think it's interesting and important perspective to look at it. Like, as you said, marketing is part of the service. So I think that's super useful also for me to hear that. And again, we are marketing for our amazing A clients we want to work with, not for every Jim and Jack out there.
Yeah, that's the biggest mistake of most people who start in the online space, especially. They think, and it's true in a way that many people's modalities and tools can serve many people. Well, this can help everybody, right? My some people would tell me, yes, but you really do not. Well, I've been around the block for some time now. You really do not want to work with everybody. Not everybody is a right fit for you.
Yeah,
Not
100%.
everybody do the work and implement in the way you want to implement.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to action the way you want to take action.
I wanted to say, I think we need some time and experience to get to a point when we are able to fire clients.
Yeah,
And
has
the
happened.
second thing you were mentioning there, it was about the seeds, kind of planting the seed that really matter and focusing on the strategies that bring, you said X, so I can imagine the big clients, money, like really the money generating strategies. But now, as you said, there is a ton of strategies. And now my question to you is like, how long we should try at one strategy before we know this is it or this is not it?
So I don't believe that there is a usual or a normal time frame.
Why not?
Um, I'm
We
sorry.
all wanted to hear it, like 4 weeks, 3 months. It
I'm
would be so
sorry.
nice and
I
simple.
I am so sorry to disappoint you, but that goes against my ethics and my values of honesty and transparency. I think every business owner has their own time frame and their own journey to go through. Again, I'd love to give you a time frame, but it will be a lie. So I also I believe in the saying Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And I also go by the lessons from nature. And I know that a tree doesn't become a tree in 2 weeks or whatever. And in fact, there's also a lot happening even at seed level. And so it really depends where you're at on that journey. And then there are some trees that flower and bloom and bud and fruit after 2, 3 years, and there are some that do it after 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? So there are so many variables at stake that play a part of the success. So another thing is, especially in the online space, we perceive people having this overnight success, right? This is what we perceive. This is assumptions that we are making. For someone who suddenly went from 0K to 5K, 5K to 50K, or whatever like, quantum leaps they made. But look at the journey they took before that. And often you find that it's a decade long.
Yeah.
You
100%.
know, of skill acquisition, of how to build relationships, of the craft that they're offering, the skill of whatever it is that they're actually offering. And so it's not only an XYZ formula.
Yeah. I mean, we
Because
all wished for that formula, isn't it? But then, as you are saying, and I was talking, a friend called me yesterday, he's a teacher, and he was like, I want to have the conversation I had with you 3 years ago when you wanted to start business because I want to start making more money. And then we were talking just about exactly this. Then on the social media, you see, oh, 10K in a month, and I will give you the exact 6 steps. And this is all not
it's
true,
never
right? And maybe there are some people who get successful very fast, but I would say most of the people you said it's like months, years of like hard work, which then we see just the tip of the iceberg. And
exactly.
we all have to pass through that journey to get on the top, isn't it?
So some people move faster than the others, for sure. Some people have more success over someone else. I've been in programs where some people had zero results, some people had
Yeah.
amazing results, and some people were okay, just moving along, like gaining their momentum. But we were all at different stages of the business.
Yeah,
Some of them went
exactly.
some of them just needed refinement. Some of us were just starting out. And so you really have to take so many things into consideration. Don't believe on just superficial level people's content. It's a highlight.
Yeah. That's how I started as well when I signed up for the business program. And you know, the promises was like, you will make so much money and this, but then as we were in the program, we saw we were all on completely different level. So for me, it was wonderful because for that was first time ever I started thinking about business. I had no idea about business. And thanks to that course, I never made my money back. But because of the course, I started and I got my first paying client. But there were
Yes.
girls who made 20K or even
Yes.
more, which was amazing. But then the way it was marketed, it was like, you're going to make this money. And like looking back at it, I think, yeah, it was not that 100% what was the reality, but I'm extremely grateful. And it's
Yeah.
tough. I think you can relate, right? It's tough when we are in that stage of business development and we are not where we want to be. But as a coach, I always say you have to compare with where you're coming from, not with where you want to go.
With yourself, and this is certainly a problem of or a challenge that high achievers and somewhat perfectionists have, right? Because I see that in myself.
And Hannah, because you focus, among other things, also on organic marketing strategies. Could you share with us what is your unique take on this?
So for me, organic marketing, just for the sake of clarifying, it means not paid marketing. So using one option is using social media. For me, it's really about relationship building. It's about relationship building. It's about people. It's about attracting the right folks into your space at the right time. Okay, and so this requires a deep understanding of who your ideal client is, beyond the surface level demographics that people teach. So normally when I ask someone who's your ideal client, they tell me male, female, male or female, working this kind of job, like job titles. But people are more than that. You know, earlier we spoke about you're not meant to serve everyone. You will see that there are different types of people you want to work with. And so we really dig deeper. And so I wouldn't say that my method is unique in a way, but the way I work helps you simplify the crap. And helps you get right to the point, right? There are so many shiny objects. There are so many things that people do. And the best way I love to work with my clients and the best way that they learn from me and they're able to get results is because we customize the strategy according to your goals, your desires, the way you want to work, how you can set up processes and systems that are repeatable and scalable, right? Because again, I think we're all here because we want some kind of freedom as well. How are we going to generate? What does that freedom mean to you? Does it mean working less hours? Does it mean being able to travel more? What does it mean?
Yeah. And you mentioned one of the strategies is social media. And I mean, there is a growing number of us that we actually don't like social media so much, or we don't want to spend that much time on the social media. So what would you say about this? Like when there is a business owner who really doesn't want to spend time on social media or very limited time, like what are the ways we can do marketing?
Yeah, I go back to what I said earlier, intentionality, being highly intentional at every stage of your business. So that includes how you spend your time. If you are limited with time, then how are you spending it? Are you going on social media to scroll, or are you going to go and use it for your business to generate leads, to build relationships, to get to know your clients or your prospects? Are you using the platform as a consumer or as a creator?
Mm.
So the
And
whole mindset and approach is so different.
yeah, what I wanted to say, this is the quote I heard Marie Forleo saying that, and it really stuck. And she said, "Produce before consuming," and I think that's super important. Like that, it's so easy to get distracted on the social media, right? They're designed for distraction. So we go there, oh, I want to post this, I want to reach out to the people, but suddenly you find yourself scrolling. Um, I'm still curious, like to dig a bit deeper. You talk about intentionality and how we should know what we are doing at that given moment. But what would you say? I know now you will tell me there will be no minimum amount like on spending on social media when you want to market. But maybe you have seen in the past some strategies that work well when people use social
Yeah.
media very little.
Yeah. So I would say I'm intentionally using it for business to generate leads and create content and engage for not more than a complete hour in a day. That could be divided in many sections throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in under a day, I'm focusing on money making activities, on lead generation, client attraction, audience growth.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
it.
it takes less than 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Could generate a good amount of qualified that tick the right boxes of who your ideal client is every single week.
Mm-hmm. And talking about time, usually the biggest challenges I see in my clients, and I can imagine it's true also for the people who are listening to this podcast, usually people don't have time or energy. So, what do you usually advise your clients when it comes to time and energy?
Yeah. I know that my answer is going to sound very boring right now, but intentionality is so key. It's so key, being very intentional. So I just spoke about generating leads in an hour a day. I think when you are very crystal clear on what you're doing and what you want to achieve through your business, then your actions become very crystal clear and you're no longer like hooking on every shiny object that comes your way. Instead of spending hours building a website and like designing your funnel and doing all of those things, if you don't have the audience to send the traffic into these systems, so you're building systems, you're building infrastructure, but you don't have the audience. Focus on what matters. Building the audience is probably what you should be doing if you don't have the traffic, the leads already flowing in, right? So people say I don't have enough time and energy to do all of these things. It's because they're not spending time and energy on the right things.
Okay.
They think to have all of the bells and whistles first to give them a sense of authority in the online space, in the visual, right? The facade, without doing the deeper work.
Yeah.
Just because you have a website does not make you more trustworthy or more skilled.
Yep. And you probably partially already answered my next question, but I love the concept. I know that from Brandon Bouchard, the 5 key moves to kind of get to the success we want. And what he describes is like if you want to achieve something, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are probably people who have done it before and just try to talk to them or research to find out the 5 key moves. So what would you say, like in your experience as a marketing expert, like what are the 5 key moves to get clients?
Okay. So the first one will be obvious. Be very intentional with your actions, with everything that you do, with your time, the way you're spending on social media, your content creation, who you're messaging, how you're messaging, who you're bringing into your audience, like being very intentional with every part of that process, okay? And ask yourself, does this align to my goals and desires or not? Does this generate clients? Yes or no? Okay, so be very intentional with every action that it's aligned with that. Work with people. So we're talking about people who want to have that freedom of traveling and whilst you're still working, right? Whilst you're still serving clients.
Yes, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say work with people all over the world, and that way you're not limited, you're not restricted to one time zone to serve, but actually you're serving people across that time zone. Create business boundaries. Rules and regulations are there for a reason. Create ones that you are aligned with, that respect your values as well, and so that other people will respect them too. because I think something that happens in the online space that I get a lot of, like, oh my God, people are messaging me all the time, and I feel like I have to be available to them all the time, and people want coaching in the messenger all the time. Like, no, you set the rules. It's your business. You set the rules of how you want to work. Another one is, especially if you're in some kind of therapy, coaching, healing space, and you're doing it offline, look at everything that you do and what can be done online. Take everything from your service and translate it to the online space. That doesn't mean that you don't do offline work. It just means that part or full of the process that you deliver could be done wherever you are in the world. I love the fact that I can pick up my laptop, change continent, and like nothing changes. Like I don't have to change. I just make sure that on my flight days I have no calls. Nothing changes. Everything remains. And I think the fifth one would be to really stay committed. Stay committed to those goals. Stay committed to your desires. You're the one who's in charge of that. Only you can create the life you want to have. No one else. No one's going to create it for you.
Yeah. And as again, like we love quick fixes, instant solutions, but I think creating our own business, it's unfortunately not that. And we need to keep going, right? As you said, like stay committed, like have the grit and really keep going until we find what really works. And it will keep changing. I started 3 years ago, which is nothing in the entrepreneurship world, but I still see the changes, and I am in a space which I really enjoy right now, but I don't know what will happen in 1 year or 5 years, and maybe and it's okay as well. So it's about like making also sure that whatever we are doing is aligned with our values. And when it comes to us, people we feed in different countries, like usually the value is also being able to move, being able to travel, being able to take, I don't know, 2 months off to go and have holidays. So it's all based on how we want to build it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah. And Hannah, because this podcast, I really want people to get inspired and to go action. So I have 3 questions I ask all my guests. So people who are listening can get inspired and try new stuff, because I love that kind of adventure piece, which makes us excited, right? To try new stuff and have fun. So what lifts you up when you're down?
So if I need an instant lift me up, I would turn to music and dance. For me, as an ex-dancer, that's that's yeah, my go-to instant therapy.
Any particular dance or music you love?
It depends on the mood.
Okay. Who inspires you and why?
This is a really hard question, and I really have no idea what to answer because there are so many people who inspire me in so many different ways. I mean, sometimes just like the local storekeeper, inspires me just from their dedication and their passion. My house helper inspires me every day through her devotion practice in her spiritual practice. So it's it's so difficult to answer this question because I'm inspired by people, by people's way of being and intentions, and yeah.
And this is the answer I got exactly from the guest, which was part of the podcast in the previous episode. And she said exactly the same. And I think it's actually really beautiful when we manage to see the inspiration in everyday people, because that's what it is about. Like, we don't need a celebrity or famous icons like Gandhi or Mother Teresa, but we can see this in normal people. And as you said, like Nepal is not one of the richest countries, but I can imagine you can see people who don't have much compared to, let's say, European standards, yet they show up completely differently. I have seen it when I used to work with the refugees. They run away, they have to leave the country, they had to walk hundreds kilometers on feet, and yet they still manage to smile and kind of find the reason why to carry on, even if they had really, really difficult experiences. I think this is a beautiful answer. I take it 100%. And the last one is it's focused on action. As I said, you guys who are listening, please listen now, because we want the action, because that's what changed life. So if there is one thing you would like the men and women who are listening to this conversation right now to do, what that would be?
So one thing that I will invite you to do today is, assuming you're building a business, is to look at, to audit your business truthfully and ask at each stage of your business, how is this serving my goals? How is this aligned to my goals? Both on a business level, both on a personal level with your desires. So really audit that, and then from there you will really start to see what matters, what doesn't matter, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And yeah, dig deeper into what doesn't work. Ask yourself why and what. So keep asking the questions, right? Reflection is important.
Yeah, I agree. And let's bring back the intentionality, right? We all have limited amount of hours. We all have the same amount of hours, and it's up to us to choose how we want to use them. And often it's so easy to get lost in the everyday tasks and forget about what is really important. And it doesn't apply only to the business, but also family, hobbies, whatever we are doing, our health, our habits, and really, I think stopping sometimes and looking at what we do every day and asking ourselves, does this really get me one step closer to my goal, is super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Hannah, we know we can find you in Nepal, but I guess many people want to start knocking on your door. So since you are in the online space, where we can find you, and what do you have to offer?
Yeah, so you can look for me on Facebook, Hannah Cremona. My name is spelled somewhere there.
It will be in the
And
show notes.
and Instagram. So you feel free. My DMs are open to message me and ask me any questions you may have. And yeah, I do coaching and mentoring. So if this is something that you're looking for, if you're looking to generate leads online organically and consistently, to have some kind of certainty in your business, that you know where your next clients are coming from, versus this like roller coaster, I don't know, sort of spray and pray approach that people are going with, then let's have a chat. Let's see how we can get you a pipeline with hot leads. Let's look at how we can build you up as an authority in your niche to become the go-to expert. Yeah, I work in a way that's very done with you sort of style. So we do things together. I really act as though I am a business partner with you in your business. So I think that's very important. As I started this interview with you, I spoke about being people centric and focused on the people, on the right people. So this is very important to me.
Yeah, amazing. And that's what coaching is about. It's about partnering with people, isn't it? So everything will be in the show notes so people can find you easily. And thank you so much for coming and having this conversation with me. It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me and the fantastic questions. And thank you for listening, everyone.